Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Bill Kuehler, and I'm the host of our Friday technology-focused edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. I'd like to welcome everyone who's joined us today, especially those of you who are joining us for the first time. The primary mission of Military Trailblazer Office Hours is to provide a live forum for transitioning military, veterans, their spouses, and allies to ask questions and get help while on their Salesforce learning journey. Besides answering questions and providing help where we can, we also invite industry leaders, Salesforce MVPs, ISV partners, and others to speak and provide insight into various parts of the Salesforce platform and ecosystem. For today's call, we are fortunate to be joined by one of the brightest stars to shine through the Salesforce cloud. She is the recipient of the first ever Awesome Admin Award and the coveted Golden Hoodie. She has written one of the most inspiring blogs to ever hit Blogspot titled "The Best Thing I Built on Salesforce, My Career." And today, I think you would be hard pressed to find a Salesforce product manager who stays more engaged within the ecosystem and with users. So without further delay, I would like to welcome Cheryl Feldman and invite her to come off mute, and we can jump into our topic for today.
Wow, thanks, Bill. That's some introduction. I hope I live up to it. So thank you so much for having me. I love talking to folks in the ecosystem who are admins, developers, just getting started, super experienced. I love talking to both partners and customers and hearing what your struggles are with my product area. So I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a quick presentation that'll probably be about 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll open it up for any questions around my product area, and I will show you exactly what products I cover. But if you have other questions about other pieces of the product, if I don't know, I'm on the platform product team. I'm part of the overall platform product team, so I can ask one of my colleagues and find out. Okay, so I have to give you this slide. You've probably seen it a million times. Some of the things I'm going to talk about today are forward-looking, so please only make your purchasing decisions with products that are already available on the market today. Some of the things I'm going to be talking about are, in the future and things that we're going to be focused on. So before I jump in, I did want to talk to you all about the products that I cover. So my official title is Director of Product Management for Authorization. Experience is the product line I manage. So that includes profiles. It includes the permissions framework. I don't own every single permission on profiles and permission sets, but we provide the framework to allow teams to create them and manage them. Permission sets, permission set groups, delegated user management, which is what we're likely going to rebrand delegated admin to, the setup audit trail, the release update feature, and I don't own all the release update, it's more of the framework that my team owns, and then the permission helper labs app, as well as a couple of new features that I'm working on. So before I get into some ideas for a product, I wanted to talk to you about the challenges that we're trying to solve. I actually didn't create a single one of these memes. I found them on Twitter or people have sent them to me. And so I've been in my role about 6 months, but as Bill said, I was a customer for a long time. So I feel all of these, and it is my honor to be able to help address some of these for our customers and our partners, because I know it's challenging. And that leads us into the first one is user access control is hard. If anybody ever tells you otherwise, it means they really haven't done it, or they have something really, really, really simple with like 3 users. And even with 3 users, you could have complexity. Every admin I talk to is managing some sort of spreadsheet to manage user access control, or maybe it's not a spreadsheet, it's some other database to remember when a new user starts, this is what they get. Or we're going through a large org shift at my company and I need to reallocate permission sets and access, and I have this massive spreadsheet to do that. Every admin is doing that. Franken profiles. This is something that I saw, and now I've adopted this name, where you end up creating another profile because we don't have full parity on permission sets. We are constantly pushing our customers to want them to use permission sets, but there's 2 big features that don't exist on permission sets today. One is default record type, and the other one is page layout assignment. And so what happens is if you're sitting at your desk on a Friday like today and your boss comes over, or maybe they Slack you and is like, hey, Joe in sales, guess what? They're going to be helping out with support for the rest of, until whenever. And now you need to figure out what access that means. And you start looking at what support has access to, and it's a whole other set of page layouts and record types. and you realize you need to create a whole new profile just for this one user, which creates a lot of technical debt. So I call those Franken profiles. Super permissions and delegating access. Sometimes you have to make some really tough decisions and you have to really push back as an admin because of some of the coupled permissions that we have, like modify all data and customize application. And then the other is troubleshooting. We've done a lot of research as an organization. I've done a lot of research in my past 6 months. What I found is admins are spending anywhere between 40 and 60% of their time troubleshooting. And a lot of that comes down to user access. And sometimes it's permission related and sometimes it's record access control related. So I don't own record access control, but my colleague does. So him and I are very joined at the hip trying to figure out what the solutions are for this to help admins, because really we want admins to be innovating and do really cool things on the platform. And it's hard to do that when you're stuck in spending 3/4 of your day troubleshooting user access control issues because we haven't given you great tools to address that. And so over the next few releases, I don't have timeframes for all of these things, but these are the things that we're going to be focused on. We're focused on 3 main areas. One is role-based access control improvements, and that is permission set parity. A new feature called access policies, which I'll talk to you a little bit about, and UX improvements for permission sets and permission set groups. We're also going to start targeting splitting super permissions, such as modify all data, customize application, view all data, view setup and configuration, and manage users. Those are the big ones we're targeting. And then we're also looking at distributed design, which is another layer down. So you could, let's say we created a more granular permission, and there is one for managing flows, right? Let's say you have that permission, but that essentially gives that user to manage all flows. What if you only wanted that user to manage 3 flows? And so we're looking at how to make that more granular. Now, I don't have what the solution is going to be. I don't have a timeline. It's more just things that we're thinking about that we know we need to address for our customers. Improving admin tools. I'll also talk to you a little about access changelog, which is a new feature that we're working on. Delegated user management, which is delegated admin. We're going to rebrand it and do some work there. And then troubleshooting tools. And I'll talk to you about our plan a little bit for permission helper. Before I jump in any further, are there any questions on what I've shared so far?
You said all this is going to be in spring 22, right?
No.
Okay, gotcha.
No. This is very forward-looking. This is more general over the next 3 to 5 releases, but make sure you're watching Release Readiness Live. I believe it's on February 4th for the admin piece, because I'll be there and I'll be sharing everything we did in spring 22.
I'll make sure I include a link in the notes here.
Yeah. And so this is something, I do have some information here on Spring 22. So just a couple of things before we jump into some of the forward-looking features is this feature I'm so excited about. I'm so excited about all of our features, but this one, oh my God, I used to manage calendar invites to do this. So, and I know people have built flows and all sorts of other ways to do this. If you need to temporarily grant access, whether it's for holiday coverage or because your customer service team is overwhelmed because shipping isn't going well, because everything is back orders and supply chain is a mess and you need other people helping out and support, this is a way you can temporarily grant access to assignment. So what this is you can actually turn this on in user management settings today. It's there. And you'll see another button on both permission sets and permission set groups called Manage Assignment with Expiration. And you'll be able to either assign without expiration, or you'll be able to specify the expiration date for this assignment. So if you're going to say, okay, we want these sales reps to help out with support for the next 2 months, you can put it in for 60 days, or you can put a custom date in there, and the system will automatically expire that access for you. You don't have to build custom flows to do that. You don't have to have calendar invites, which is what I used to do. And we want the platform to do it for you. So those are the types of features that we're delivering. So it's in beta today, but we actually did a lot of work in the UI for Spring 22. And take a look at this. Take a look at this, turn it on in your sandbox or a dev org, and let me know what you think of these screens, because these screens will become the screens for assignment. We're going to replace our old assignment screens with these screens, and we're starting to move all of our stuff into Lightning. This is another feature. This is open beta in spring, and it will go GA in summer. And this is for transaction security policies. So my team does not manage transaction security policies. We actually did a joint project and feature with the event monitoring team. So this does require an event monitoring subscription. But what you can do if you have event monitoring is, for the first time ever, and I would have loved this. I actually used to work in banking and I needed this so bad when I was a customer, is you can actually block specific types of permissions from being assigned or added to a permission set. So you could actually specify, and we're tracking in spring, we added, I think we had in winter, we were tracking 4 permissions. We added 10 more in spring. So we have a total of 14 permissions we're tracking, but it's things like view all data, modify all data, view setup and configuration, modify all data, customize application, manage users, and a few others. And then we have the list on the help and training doc. And what this allows you to do is you can either block it when somebody is trying to add it to a permission set, or block the assignment, or you can alert, and you can alert through an in-app notification or an email. And so this is extremely powerful if you're in a regulated industry where, because we don't necessarily have everything from like a delegated admin standpoint there, if you need to delegate out, or there's some reason you have to give managed users because of something else, and you don't want these permissions just being able, somebody just to be able to add them to a permission set, you can actually block people from doing that. And so this is huge, 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 and something I would have loved when I'm a customer. And I'm so excited that I get to deliver it for our customers. So the next thing that we're working on is, and this is not, this is more for the summer release. We have a lot of work to do on analytics around permissions. And this is this is one of the top 10 ideas of most requested ideas. And this is the most requested idea for my feature area. One thing I want to say is I am listening. I am listening. I read through every comment on every single idea. I take 15 minutes out of my day every morning and I read new comments and ideas. I try to respond to everything. What we need to do is provide analytics on permission set assignment and permission set group assignment. So really you can understand what's happening in your org, both from if you join a company and maybe they've had Salesforce for a while and you're the admin there and you're trying to figure out who has access to what, to be able to tell that. Or if you're in an industry where you need to report to compliance, if there's some very specific permissions they want to control who has access to, you need to be able to report on these things. Now, from talking to the analytics team, it's fairly complex to just put this in reports and dashboards. And really looking at how permission set assignment is stored and all the things you can do with permission set groups, including muting, I'm actually not sure just putting this in reports and dashboards would actually really help anybody. We need to be able to calculate the overall access a user has, looking at direct assignment through a permission set, or indirect assignment through a permission set group, and then calculating what's muted. So there's always like a net of what they have access to. And so we're going to be making a very large investment. We actually have a new person joining our engineering team next week that will actually be helping me take permission helper to the next level. We will likely rebrand this as admin helper or something, but we are going to turn this into a Salesforce managed app. It will be included with subscription. We will not charge for this. And you will still have to install it. However, we'll put a link in setup. And that's what we're going to be focused on for summer. And this will start the base of being able to report and have analytics and intelligence around who has what in your system. And you can do some of this today with Permission Helper, but it's a labs app. It's not supported. I'm support, and I'm terrible at support, I've learned, because, I only have so much time in the day, and, there's emails coming in, there's posts in the Trailblazer community coming in, and it's just not something I can constantly respond to all day long. So we need actual support on this app. So that's what our plan is for that, to really start to deliver this idea and this feature, because it's super important to me that we do deliver this, and I don't think we can wait. I just don't think we can wait. We need to do this now. I think 60,000, I think it's almost 61,000 now, it may actually be 61,000 now. People really need this, and that's only the people who have voted on this idea, and it's super important to me that we get this out there. Another feature that we're working on is something called access policies. And we are going to release a pilot, obviously safe harbor forward-looking statement in the summer release. And it'll be a limited pilot. But what we want to do is allow admins to essentially state a persona. And that persona could be for user setup, or that persona could be for something like a migration, whether it's license migration or you're migrating from profiles to permission sets. And so what we will do is we will give you a feature that will allow you to do a few things. The first thing will be able to state a piece of criteria. And that piece of criteria will be something like users who have a specific permission set or don't have a specific permission set, or users who have a license or don't have a specific license, or something on the user record, user job title equals X or user custom field equals Y. And having that complex criteria that you can say, okay, this will be a one-time use policy for migration. Policies will not be assigned to users, they will be applied. What a policy will do when activated is it will apply the access that will be defined in the actions piece of the policy. So your actions will be things like add permission set, remove permission set, add license, remove license. And we're targeting to include licenses that are both from our App Exchange, like App Exchange licenses, as well as our Salesforce licenses. So you'll be able to do both. And then from a permission standpoint, we'll have both permission sets and permission set groups there, but you will be able to reference profiles in the criteria if you're doing something like, okay, migrate everybody in these 3 profiles over to these 10 permission sets or 5 permission set groups or whatever it is. Because we are still on the path to, we want to end of life permissions on profiles. We have a lot of work to do before we get there. And before we really start to really push our customers to do that, but we can't ask our customers to do that without proper tools. We can't just say, go ahead and rework your whole user access control because we told you to. We need to make it simple. We need to make it easy. We need to make it fast. And so these are the ways that we're going to do that. The other features that I'm really, really excited to deliver this is governance. We're going to allow approvals on this. And so what that means is if you are in a regulated industry or you have a lot of compliance around the things that you're doing and user access control, you will be able to say, before I apply and activate this policy, it needs to go through an approval process. And maybe somebody in compliance or an information owner, or maybe it's somebody that's an IT management or a product owner needs to approve this. And once they approve, then you can apply it to users. And so those are the types of things that we're targeting for this. And then we will also eventually have this a little bit further out in the roadmap, the ability to roll back an access policy and to roll back access changes. But we're going to be doing a lot of work here. We're making a big investment in this, and we'll make it deployable as well. So you could set up your access policies in a sandbox and deploy them. I would love to know your feedback on something like this. So I don't know if anybody, I saw a couple of things come in through the chat.
Yes, Cheryl, yes. Yes, on everything. It is amazing in 6 months what you've been able to tackle.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
I mean, these are things we've dreamed about for how many years?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I will make sure to, I hope you don't mind if I quote you to my engineering team that works with me, because they have been just so hard at work delivering all of these things. And they really believe in this vision, and they love admins. They absolutely love admins, and they want to make everything better for them. So we're really excited to deliver this.
Just amazing job.
Thank you.
So, Cheryl, one question that came in,
Sure.
not through the everyone, but directly. And I think you may have answered this already, but can you see a world where the concept of profiles just goes away completely?
I think profiles will be there maybe more of as a reference. But I think permissioning on profiles will go away completely. So permissions, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, will not be there on profiles. They will only be there through permission sets. Now, there's other things on the profile like login hours and all of those things that we need to figure out. One of the things that's interesting about that's actually owned by another team. So we're actually working with them to figure out what the path is there. But my guess in the next 2 to 3 years, well, what I want to do in the next, this is not a guess, this is what we're working towards, is permissions will only exist at permission set level. And that's what we want to do. And I figure this will actually help. And I know customers, and I know when I first heard this, when I was a customer, I was like, what? And it's because profile is so heavily referenced everywhere in the platform. And those are the things that we need to address. And when I get into my roadmap, you'll see we're going to be addressing all of those, because the thing about when you create a new field that shows profiles, and now if you want to add it to permission sets, it's like a 20-step process to do that. We need to address all of those things if we're really going to tell our customers this. So yes, I'm aware of those things, but I think to answer your overall question, I think permissions will be there more, profiles will be there more as a reference entity, not as something that you would permission a user, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. No, that's great.
I have a question for you. So, going forward, if we do not have the permission set of the profile, so how do we come to know? Which user is having what kind of profile? So it's going to be very messy. For getting.
No, we're going to have permission sets. Permission sets are not going anywhere.
Okay.
No, permission sets and permission set groups, that's it. That permission sets and permission set groups are staying there forever. It's it's permissions on profiles. So think about when you're on a profile and you're adding a permission, we want you to only do that on permission sets. But we have 2 big features that we don't have parity on yet. And there's a couple others, but the 2 big ones are page layout assignment and default record type. So we're going to be addressing those in the upcoming releases, but that's the plan. Permission sets will not go anywhere. Don't worry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So as far as access policy, these are the use cases we're going to be targeting for our initial GA, which was probably be winter and spring 23, somewhere around there, if I had to guess. We're going to see how the pilot goes in summer. We may have to make some adjustments, but personas for new users, setup and job role changes, adding and removing access, business migration. I can't tell you how many times in my career where you have like 3 separate sales teams operating very differently, and then a new sales executive gets hired and they stop by your desk like, there's not going to be 3 separate sales teams, there's going to be 1 sales team. Go figure out the access. It's so much work to kind of manage and restructure this. Policies will help you on that type of business migration. Then we're also going to have all sorts of Salesforce mandated migration, especially, moving profiles to permission sets. This will be the tool. There's going to be ISV mandated migration. A lot of ISVs are on the path to start creating more granular licensing. And so this will be the tool that our customer admins will use to migrate their users. So we're trying to make everything very easy for admins, because we know, and I know how hard your job is, right? You have so much work to do. I'm not trying to add to it. I'm trying to help you simplify it. And so these are the features that we're targeting long-term. If you think if you ask me what my 3 to 5 year plan is, multi-org, multi-product access policies, we're a long ways away. When we go GA on the initial release, it will be single org and set up like you're used to with everything else. But I think long-term, what I want to get to is what I've learned from talking to customer admins is our customer admins are no longer just admins of Salesforce. They are admins of about 12 or 13 apps sometimes. I talked to an admin. She's the admin of Salesforce, Sales Cloud, and Service Cloud. They also have Pardot. Then they have another marketing tool, I forget what it was, that she's also managing. She's their Quip admin, as well as they use Financial Force, DocuSign, and 5 other app exchange apps that I can't remember. And they were also in the process of converting from Teams to Slack, and she was going to get somebody to report to her to be the Slack admin, but she was overall going to own that. So why do we have, like, for her to manage access, it's all these different places. She showed me this massive spreadsheet. She was also getting ready to go on maternity leave when I spoke to her. And she's a lone admin of a 250 user company, but they use all of these apps and all of these things. And so they were hiring a consultant to cover for her for 4 months. And she's showing me this giant spreadsheet she had to create. And because they were going to go through a hiring blitz where they were planning on hiring 75 to 100 new salespeople with a round of funding that they got. And she's showing me this massive spreadsheet of everything she has to do when a new salesperson starts. And I was like, we have to simplify this. So that's long-term goal, is to get admins out of spreadsheets. That's it. I feel like we've done a great job with end users, with getting salespeople and support people out of spreadsheets. I feel like admins a lot of times are still living in spreadsheets. So these are the features that we're targeting. And I talked a lot about all of these already, but these are the features that we're targeting for access policy for the initial GA.
I have a
question. Yeah.
Yeah. So one more thing I would like to add, that it's a very, old demand. I think people already voted for that. Why do we not have the delete user in Salesforce? Are you planning? Because many users are getting created and they are inactive in the org, and it's a mess, right? Every time you do the calculation sharing and everything, it's all the inactive users are getting into. So why Salesforce is not, giving that option to delete the users? Thank you.
I will take your question for that. Let me cover a couple more things and then I will answer that question. And then this is just from like an access policy perspective. This is like a UX mock-up. This is very early, just so you can get an idea of what this might look like. But this is everything this is like probably what it will look like when we get closer to GA. And so, like I said, we're going to have pilot in summer with probably 10 to 15 customers and see how it goes. And then we'll probably do a much larger pilot in the winter release, maybe even a beta. And then I think we'll probably go, my guess is like either sometime in 2023, we'll probably go GA if I had to guess. And then something else we're working on is reimagining permission set groups and permission sets. What I've found talking to admins, and even from my own experience, when you're troubleshooting, a lot of times where you start is like, okay, why can't this user do this, right? And you start having to dig through permission sets, and especially if you didn't like create them, you don't know what's in there. It could be called something like sales access. That could mean so many things. And especially like when you have a permission set group, that what if you have 50 permission sets in there that each have tons and tons of things? So what we want to do is roll information up like this to give our admins the ability to see what's in a permission set to troubleshoot faster. So I don't know when this will be coming in the roadmap yet. I'm thinking, my guess is probably sometime at the end of 2023. If I had to guess, we have not started work on this yet, I'll be honest. But this is something that we want to do. And we're going to start socializing this with our customers once we have a clickable UI to really get some good feedback. And then just a couple of things from a roadmap perspective is in summer 22, access policy. I told you we'll get a pilot out there. If you have questions on what's going on with modify all data, what's going on with customized application, all these big super permissions, what my team is doing is we're building a framework for our clouds to easily start to decouple those permissions. So I would say after summer 22, you're going to start seeing some more granular permissions come to life, because we needed to actually do some work to enable this. So Permissions Helper will become a managed app in summer. Assignment Expiration that I showed you will go GA. The permission set event will go GA. This is I would say this is, this is a stretch, I would say, for summer. My guess is this will happen in winter, and that's the ability to include permission sets when you create a new field. So we're actually going to start the work in the summer. I just don't know with how big it is if we're actually going to finish it. But that's what we're targeting for summer. For winter, we'll continue with access policies. We'll do some analytics improvements. We are also going to work on the default record type and page layout assignment redesign, the access change log, which is a new feature when we bring along with access policies. And we're going to start working with teams. My goal is to try to get 5 super permissions split for winter. And then spring, kind of, on the same on the same path to, we'll probably get a beta out there of access policies and access change logs. We're going to start to do some work on delegated admin. Delegated admin is very role-based right now. What I want to do is make it criteria-based. We're working on what that might look like. And then some additional super permissions and additional analytics and insights, permission helper. And I've always had this dream. I don't know if this will actually come in spring 23. I'm still figuring out how we could do it, is having this idea of like an admin inbox. So what if anytime your user hits some sort of, you don't have permissions to view this page or some sort of error, what if you, the admin, had an inbox of all of that you could just go through with it and figure out what you want to do with it? Because right now, somebody has to call you unless you've set up some really, really smart event monitoring like dashboard. It's your users are calling you. And so how do we make you more proactive instead of reactive? So that's what we're looking at. So I don't know when that will actually come. I have that on my list. I think it's a stretch, but it's something that I want to do. But that's simply my presentation. But to answer your question on user deletion, I actually have gotten this 4 times this week already. And so here's my answer to that. And it's going to be a question back to you. So the reason why it hasn't been done, I did talk to my team to get the history. I've only been at Salesforce for 6 months, but I did talk to the team to get the history. And what was never clear from customers is what do they want to happen when a user owns records and they try to delete it? And it was never, I don't think there was ever any clarity from customers on what we wanted. And I think what I need to do with customers is define what customers actually need to happen. Now, if I was going to prioritize this feature, I would likely prioritize it with this way. And you tell me if this would work for you. I would only allow deletion if the user did not own or was not referenced in any records.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with you. I mean, that's a much better way. Yeah, you are absolutely right on your point that so many users who are inactive, but they have the record access and Salesforce does not know what to do with that. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for giving.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Cheryl, on that, like with forecasting, we use the native forecast hierarchies. And when we deactivate a user, and we have to keep them in the forecast, otherwise their deals that they closed after they left comes off and throws all the pipeline reporting off. So like that's a big thing. So we couldn't delete them, and we want to show that they own them because compensation for them and everything. So there's a lot there to do a delete. That would be scary.
Okay.
Fantastic. And so the other thing that we could do is, and what we give our customers today, if you actually read the documentation on this, we give you essentially, I'm going to botch this word. It's like obfuscate, I think is the word, where you can actually scramble all the data. There's an Apex class to do it. And you can scramble the data. And technically, if you read like the GDPR and the CCPA, that actually counts as a delete because the data is gone, but record still exists. So I think that's maybe something we could target doing. I don't know. I don't know when we would actually get to do this. And I think, but I'm got this request and I'm wondering if something is triggering this request, because I've gotten it 4 times this week and I'm like, is something going on? And maybe it's just all the privacy laws, that are,
Yeah, I understood it. It's very complicated. I mean, from that aspect, I mean, what I learned, because I haven't done that forecasting and the compensation and the splitting and things, forecast hierarchy. I think, I mean, it's complicated from the Salesforce perspective to delete a user and reassign all the things. Yeah, I do understand. I mean, thank you very much for explaining that.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to talk to the team probably when we start planning for the winter release, how big this is. But I think what I want to do is I'm trying to socialize what customers actually want. And it seems that customers don't always want to delete, they want to hide. And it's like, maybe it's a sharing visibility thing. And, because they're like, well, these users may still own records. I'm like, well, then what would you do with those records if they were deleted? What would you want the system to do with them? Because then they're in la land, basically. They're just in a database, not assigned to anyone. And if you have sharing rules set up, that means people can't see those records potentially. So we need to be very careful about this. So I think what we need to do some more user research. That's really what I'm saying before I can commit to anything. But it is something I'm looking at because I've actually gotten this question 4 times this week and a number of times in the past couple of weeks. But I would say I'll have a more defined answer when we start planning for winter 23.
Thank you very much for your kind answer. Thank you very much.
Yeah. What other questions does everybody have? I see some more questions in the chat. Let's see.
One basic question for the admin helper that you were walking through.
Yeah.
What's the main reason why that would be like a separate App Exchange app versus built into the platform itself? Is there some kind of decision that goes into that?
Yes. And so the decision was, so if we would probably build this into the app, this would likely come into something like reports and dashboards, right? Where you could build reports. I think and this is what I was saying before, I think if we just essentially dumped into some like big object or some entity, all of your permission assignment, I don't think it would actually be easy to report on because of how users can be assigned permissions, because they can either be assigned directly or indirectly. And then they have permissions can be muted through a permission set group. So how do you get that net access? And is that net access what people want? So I think it's we need to give some predefined analysis and something that's a little bit more like one level up to really help our customers get to the right metrics about their users. And that would be and also the way that setup metadata works in reports and dashboards today probably wouldn't allow us to do the things like that. And so, and from talking to the analytics product team, they have so much work that they need to do from a true to the core standpoint. They would have to stop doing all of that work to take on this work. And from looking at the stuff that they're doing, that's stuff that's sorely needed by our customers also. So do I want to stop that work? Not that I have the power to. The answer is no. And so this is why we're delivering it this way, because we can't wait anymore. Our customers can't wait. And this is how we're going to get it fast. And I think at this point, we need to be fast. And will we eventually build it on the platform? Maybe. But do you want to wait 3 years, another 3 years for it? Because that's likely what it would take. Or I could give you something now. Is it going to be? And I think we could get it pretty great. And will you have to install it? Yes. Will it be managed by Salesforce? Yes. It's managed by my team. So it's not even being developed by somebody else. It's my team developing it. There's engineers on my team that have developed this and will continue to maintain it.
Great. Another question. I think I saw this on the aggregate view that you had, but one of the things that I've seen come up from time to time is on permission sets. You look at that initial permission set screen and there's object permissions, Apex classes, all this stuff, and you have to kind of dig into each one of them to actually see what is actually in the permission set.
Yeah.
Did I see that view where it just showed the stuff that's in the permission set without all the other clutter? Yeah, I think that was the view that I was looking at there.
Yep. So that's what we want to do. We want to reimagine we want to move this into Lightning, first of all. And when we do that, we want to reimagine the entire screen. So I have a UX designer that's now assigned to me to work through this. And she's working on creating a clickable prototype, a couple of them. We're going to start meeting with customers to have them click around on some of these and get some feedback. I don't know where this is going yet in our roadmap, but we're going to do it.
Gotcha. No, I have a few other questions, but before I go through mine, does anybody else have any questions that you want to go through? Okay, now this isn't feature specific, but Cheryl, I know that you kind of started within as a user, as an admin, and then you moved on to work at Salesforce. What was one of the biggest surprises that you found coming from the user side to working at Salesforce? Anything that kind of surprised you once you got pulled up into the mothership, so to speak?
I think it was a very good surprise. I think there was 2 very good surprises. And I didn't think that it was more like a confirmation, not a surprise. Salesforce is as great a company as you think it is. Everything they say and everything that Mark Benioff and Brett Taylor and Sarah Franklin say is 1000% true. There is no BS in that messaging. It is 100% true. I feel very supported. I have a lot of autonomy to manage my product. Obviously, we all have a boss, I report into Belinda Wong, who's an incredible manager and deeply, deeply cares about Salesforce admins and developers and their customers. And I'm being allowed to work and deliver these features. And I think that's been I don't want to say it's a surprise, but a confirmation of what I thought Salesforce was. I would say the other confirmation is everything, the 4 values that Salesforce always talks about, they 100% practice those every single day. And I absolutely love working there. And I know it was absolutely the right move for me at the right time. And I feel like I'm in the right role. I feel like I'm in like really where I should be.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Again, before I go into the next question, does anybody else have a question?
I just wanted to know, Cheryl, are they investing now in product management? I mean, obviously you're taking permissions and profiles, but in other admin features, I know that flow has been a big thing, right? But are there any other areas of the platform that they're going to focus on for admins? That you
I think there's going to be a lot of focus on a couple of things. I think one of my colleagues has done a lot of stuff around like restriction rules and scoping rules. If you haven't checked out those 2 features, check them out. Really cool features. I definitely know that there's teams, working on a couple of different things that are true to the core. I would say definitely pay attention to what you hear on the admin release readiness live. And I'm hoping they'll start bringing back those true to the core sessions for you guys. But those are things I know of. But definitely, I know that we're all tasked with updating our ideas. So definitely pay attention to ideas on the Idea Exchange. I know I've been trying to update all of mine on like a fairly regular basis. So, and I think a lot of product managers are trying to do that now. So I would say definitely pay attention there.
Right. I think you just kind of alluded to this, Cheryl, but one question was, just as a product manager, how do you interact with the Idea Exchange? I think you mentioned that every day or at least once a week, you're going through kind of responding to questions, but how much does that actually influence what gets developed on the platform?
So it influences me a lot. And I would say some of the ideas that I'm delivering were my own ideas. So I would say it does influence me a lot. But what I also do is I get confirmation of that influence through other customer conversations. And I talk to folks at every level. So a lot of our ideas are created by admins, but I also talk to those in senior leadership at our customers. I also talk to our user experience folks who are meeting with customers all the time and have met with customers and getting confirmation like this is what we need to build, because the idea may be something like analytics on permission set assignment, right? That's the idea. If I just delivered that, is that really going to help them? I think the answer to that is no. And when I read through the comments, it's not just analytics or looking for troubleshooting, all sorts of things. And I think for me, that's when I come in as a product manager. I'm not just, and this is where I think and this is where I think having been in leadership and gone from an admin really is helping me is, when I started my career, I feel like I was very much an order taking admin. Somebody told me to do A, I did A. But then I think as you get more advanced in your career, and probably all of you start asking, well, why do you want me to do A? What is that really? What's the end goal, right? And when I start looking at the end goal, that's what I'm doing. I'm productizing that feature and maybe saying, well, because if you look at some of our requests in the Idea Exchange, one of them was, I need to be able to insert records with workflow rules. That is not what was delivered. What was delivered was process builder and flow, right? And so you have product managers taking those ideas and saying, well, should we invest in an old piece of technology or should we invest in a new piece of technology that's going to do this and that much more? And that's what we're doing as product managers.
So it sounds a lot like the Henry Ford faster horse kind of thing here. You're going to have to take what people are asking for and, take a different spin on it.
I really do hope that all the new admins are really listening to what Cheryl is saying, because this is so critical. Her process is so critical. Don't just be an order taker, because the order taker is what leaves you with an org that is a mess. You really have to be a critical thinker. Don't be a jerk to your end users, but push back, ask for more details, ask for better understanding of what problem they're trying to solve. All this stuff that Cheryl, go back and listen to this recording and listen to what she just said in the last 15 minutes. It's critical. It's critical for all of us as the admin side of the house.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Jen, I will tell you that when you said go back and watch the recording, I had that tinge of adrenaline in my gut that I forgot to hit the record button, but I am recording. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Okay, one more question. Are you going to get the recordings? I know we are going to get, but the slides, I mean, are we going to get the slides? I mean, are you doing this?
I can answer for the recording part, and that is that I do post these all on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say if you didn't know that, I would be a little stressed because my marketing game could leave a little bit to be desired. But yeah.
I'm not going to just share them generally, but if you have a specific, like you want to share them with your company, I'd want to know what you are doing with them. C Feldman at Salesforce, just reach out to me and we can chat. But what other questions do you have? I will answer anything that I can potentially answer.
Cheryl, oh, good, Pearl. Yeah.
Hey, I just have a very initial question. When you talk about profile is going to be for reference only, I don't quite get that part.
So right now on a profile, you can add permissions, things like modify all data, customize application. That will eventually only be on permission sets. But a lot of organizations use profiles as a way to group people in together. And so my vision is we will likely still be able to reference that in formulas. If you want to say this validation rule should fire for all the people in this profile, I think you should probably still be able to do that. It's just you won't be able to permission.
Okay.
But I really think there's also other ways to do that through like custom permissions as well. So there's lots of ways to do things, but that's what I mean from like a reference.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Cheryl, one question. You mentioned this a little bit, but how does it work with engaging with other product managers as far as, maybe on the developer side or other parts of the application? Is that something that you all kind of meet on a regular basis, or is it only as needed? Like how connected is it? How much are you guys cross-talking on the different parts of the platform?
So I talk to a lot of product managers all the time, especially if, so one of the other features we delivered in spring is the ability to test permission set groups and Apex classes. So I worked very closely with the developer side because I saw this as a customer need. Like, I think it was my second week, I got like 3 customers complaining about the fact that 1, that we didn't have documentation on it, and 2, that they couldn't do it. And I started thinking, yeah, we need to do this. And I reached out to the product managers for Apex and we collaborated, and my team, did the work, but they really were supportive of us. So we're all part of the overall platform team. We're all part of Salesforce. We're all working together to deliver the best features for our customers. And so I would say it's more that we work together all the time, but we're all in a lot of Slack channels together. We're always talking together. We're on a lot of calls together. So I interact with product managers all over the place all the time. So I've interacted just this week. I've interacted with product managers in Experience Cloud, in mobile. I've interacted with folks in various parts of like the developer experience product team, also in the greater product team of platform services I'm part of. I would say I talk to other product managers all the time.
Nice.
Especially because one of my features are core to the platform, and a lot of times their features are dependent on me. So, but I like to understand what other people are doing to make sure my stuff works, and make sure it's going to be really good for admins and represent admins in every area of the platform, and make sure that they're getting a voice.
Gotcha. I did know you mentioned about when a user has a permission issues, or they don't have access to a record, somehow like a queue of tasks or something that would be sent to the admin, like they can see people who have permission issues and things.
This is my dream. I don't know if we're actually gonna make it happen. It's dream, but yes, that's one thing I would love to do. If you ask me like, what is a far-fetched goal that I have, that's one.
Now, what I was going to ask is there any way that we can add a little bit to that dream where that might actually be connected to Slack channels as well? So as these things are happening throughout the day.
That's a great idea. Yes, I have so many ideas around this. Yes, we need to get through some of the other things and really start to really push our customers towards permission sets and do some of this work around essentially getting profiles off some of the pages on platform. I think once we hit the winter 23 release, I'll have some more bandwidth to do things like this.
Yeah, so I think that's why, you're so great in this role and why I would be horrible in this role, because you're looking at it like, what do our users need? What is, what's the community saying they need? And I'd be like, oh, what if we could integrate Slack where like every time they do, you know what I mean? So that's why I don't think I'd be good in this role.
Yeah. And I think, but I think the, and just to give you all a little bit of background, I wanted to be a product manager for Salesforce for 14 years. And I remember it was and this is why I like to talk to admins, because I remember how life-changing it was for me to talk to a product manager for the very first time. I will never forget it. It was at Dreamforce 2007. And that was the second Dreamforce I ever went to. I remember the first Dreamforce, I was just overwhelmed. I mean, it was small, very small compared to what Dreamforce is today. And I remember I went in 2007. It was the second time I went. And I had a list of things, like a very list. I was like, I need to talk to people about this thing. And it was about approvals. And I remember I saw my CSM wasn't there. My CSM manager was there. And I talked to her and she was like, we should get you in touch with the product manager. And she was like, oh, look, there they are. And she introduced me. And I remember thinking, what's a product manager? I had never heard that term before. And maybe it wasn't widely used on, or maybe it's just the organizations I worked in. I never worked in an organization that had a product manager for anything. And so I was like, And maybe because I worked in financial services and it just wasn't a term that was used. I don't know. But I remember I met with her and we talked about my idea and I talked about our business process. And she's like, we absolutely should do this. She's like, I'm going to add this to my roadmap. And she's like, give me about a year and we'll get it done. And like 2 releases later, she sent me an email and said, hey, we're working on this right now. We would love your feedback. And I remember that was so life-changing for me, and realizing the importance of having that connection to product managers, and then also making that connection for myself was, I want to do that when I grow up. And I remember actually having that conversation with her. How do I do this when I grow up? And she gave me a list of skills. And I think it was probably maybe in like 2016, I became very intentional about it on the roles that I took to get the skill sets to get there. But this is when people talk about their dream job, this is my dream job. So keep me accountable. If there's something that you want to see that's not there, it may not be a yes that I'll give you, but I'm always willing to listen.
Awesome. Any other questions before I go through just a final quick 3?
So, sorry, just my other thing to press, because Cheryl, I just am in such awe of and have been for years. The other thing to follow Cheryl's lead is to help others. Cheryl has put in an extraordinary amount of information to get herself through her career to where she is now. But Cheryl is one of those people you see all throughout the ecosystem helping others too. So the way that we all got here is by the help of others. Don't forget to pay it forward. As you gain your Salesforce experience and your career moves forward, reach back and help the people that are coming up behind you.
Absolutely.
I 1000% support that message. And I remember I attended my first user group in New York City for Salesforce. I think it was like in the very beginning of 2005. And Michael Farrington, who you all may know, who's like a legend in the community, he's actually originally from New York. And I remember I approached him and he helped me with this like really complicated formula I was working on at the time. And I remember, asking him like, what can I do? And he's like, pay it forward. And I remember it took me about a year to feel comfortable enough, but I started presenting it almost every single user group and helping other people. And I always carried that with me, like what he told me. He told me to pay it forward. And I feel like I owe so much of my career to that one statement and to that 30 minutes that Michael spent with me. I feel like just changed my life. And if you have 30 minutes to spend with somebody, you may change somebody's life and not even know it.
Awesome. Well, we have just a few minutes left, and I'm just going to go through 3 very quick questions. The first one, Cheryl, what is your favorite item on your Salesforce swag shelf?
Okay, on my swag shelf, it's a little bit of a mess right now, but let me turn mine so you can see it here. So these are all my swag stuff here. I also have some stuff over there. I would say it's probably my golden hoodie is one of them. And the other one is my awesome admin award. I have it on top of my wall unit with all sorts of other like family memorabilia, because I remember I got surprised by my manager at Dreamforce 2014 on stage at the first ever admin keynote. And it was so special to me that I was being recognized for not only my work on the platform, my work in the community. And it holds a very, very special place in my heart.
Nice. Now, just building on that, I know golden hoodies are not awarded to Salesforce employees. So do you ever kind of flex when you're joining some of these conference calls and wear your golden hoodie with all your other PMs you're meeting with?
I don't. I essentially hung up my golden hoodie, but maybe I should. But I feel like I was never like that, even as a customer. I think yes, well, actually, that's not true. When I was a customer, this is what I used to do at work. I used to have it behind me. And when people at work didn't want to do what I told them to do, I was like, who has the golden hoodie? I do.
Don't you know who I am as you're pointing back to
I'm telling you, this is the way to do it. Do it. And so, so I have flexed it when I was at work. I used to work at a large bank, but I would say generally, probably not what I'm going to do, but I think, it holds such a special place in my heart. But I want to make sure those people who are newer to getting golden hoodies and the new generation of Trailblazers get all the attention and all the visibility on them, because they deserve it. They are the next generation. And that's why I love this job, because I get to build tools that, I could essentially help create the next generation of Trailblazers with these tools.
Nice. All right. Final question before we part ways. For me, this is always a big one when I attend Dreamforce. But what is your favorite Dreamforce band that you've seen?
Favorite Dreamforce band, Foo Fighters.
Nice. Okay. I think I'm trying to think if I saw them. I'm not sure.
And I think that was Dreamforce 15. The other one, my most memorable Dreamforce band was at Dreamforce. It was either 12 or 13. I can't remember. I think it might have been 13. Green Day. And it rained and we got
I was in the rain.
soaked.
I was soaked as well. That was awesome.
Soaked, covered in mud. That's actually where I met Joshua Hoskins, who's another MVP, who's a great person. Like, I felt like Dreamforce 13 was like the year I became super connected to the community. I made so many friends that year.
Awesome. Well, listen, I think we're out of time. So first of all, I just want to say, Cheryl, thank you so much for, sharing a little bit about your journey and of course the roadmap for AuthZX. Thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions or any kind of follow-ups we didn't get to today, I'll be posting the recording on LinkedIn and we can chat there. So I hope everybody has a great weekend and hope to see everybody next week.
All right.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Thanks all.
Bye. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
weekend.